Now that we've had a look at the most important invoice parameters, let's take a look at the operations that can be performed with invoices. Let's go back to our web interface. We have already briefly seen the download option. There are a number of ways in PortaBilling to download an invoice. First of all, if we click on the invoice number, this is actually a link, the invoice will download automatically. If we tick the box next to the invoice, the top menu will appear and we can click download from here. We can also select invoices in bulk for download. Then when we click download, a zip file will be created and it will download automatically. Okay, let's untick all of these. The last option is to go to this menu on the right and select download from the drop-down menu. Our next operation is adjust. Let's have another look at this invoice that we have here, 17,828. Let's go to the second page to see the breakdown of the charges. Here we have a subscription fee for $5. Let's suppose that we promised our customer to waive this subscription fee for the first 6 months, for example, including this invoice here. Okay, then we can go to, let's go back to our invoice list. This is our invoice here. We can go to the menu on the right and choose adjust in the drop down. Okay, and here we will introduce the amount that we want to adjust for. So this is our subscription fee. Let's call it waived subscription fee. And let's copy the comment to make it visible to the end user. Okay. After I click adjust, the adjustment will appear in the corresponding column. Okay, and the outstanding balance for this invoice will be $1.67. Why is this adjustment or the quick fix the best solution for our hypothetical case? Why couldn't we just void the invoice, remove the erroneous XDR, and wait for the correct invoice to be generated during the next off-peak period? We are going to talk about voiding the invoices very soon, but as it happens, it is highly undesirable to void existing invoices since they have already been processed by the customers and the CSPs, accounting departments, if we're talking about corporate customers, for example. It is not an easy task to track these changes, to void invoices in the accounting systems that PortaBilling may be integrated with, for example, with QuickBooks. Okay, these changes may need to be performed manually, and manual operations always result in errors. The adjustment operation we've just performed allowed the customer to pay $5 less for the invoice. So after the customer pays $1.67 for this invoice, the invoice will be paid in full. From the accounting point of view, an adjustment is analogous to a payment. As well as a payment, the adjustment will be immediately visible on the web interface, but it will be included only in the next invoice, not in this invoice here that was already generated, but in the next invoice that is going to be generated when the current billing period is closed. Okay. Our next operation is void invoice. Let's click it. We get a message here that this operation cannot be undone and that the operation will mark the invoice as voided, and this will be also visible in our PDF file. The customer will be notified via email. Okay. Let's cancel it for right now. When will void invoice be the right choice for our PortaBilling administrator? Let's say that the invoice was generated with an error in the tariff for voice calls, and we need to recalculate all the charges for voice calls after the tariff was fixed. So we actually don't know what amount to adjust the invoice for, and the only way to find out what the correct amount is to recalculate the invoice. So in this case, we need to void the invoice. Let's do it with this invoice that we have here for the sake of the example. Okay, we can either choose void here, or we can choose it from this menu here. Okay, let's click void. The invoice ends in 807. Okay, this is important because we will see that it will disappear from the list. Let's click void. Okay. The operation was scheduled. Let's refresh. As I already said, the invoice disappeared from the list. We can activate this toggle in order to see void invoices. Okay, we also noticed that besides voiding the invoice that ends in 807, all the subsequent invoices were also voided, because the amount due of this invoice influences the amount due of all subsequent invoices, and if this one contains an error, all of them must be recalculated. As you see, these invoices have been marked as voided, but they have not disappeared from the system. Every invoice is a financial document that must be kept for audit purposes. So the operation void invoice does not delete the invoice from the system, it only marks it as voided. The PortaBilling system considers these invoices to be invalid, and they are not used in any future calculations. However, the documents must be kept. Our last operation is regenerate invoice PDF. It only changes the appearance of the invoice. It does not trigger any recalculations. Okay, let's go to another customer and see what the current invoice looks like. Let's download it and check it for 1 second. Okay, this is basic template. Now let's go back to our customer, to invoices and taxation, invoicing configuration. Well, let's change the regular invoice template to the one that we already know that looks nice. I pass new, okay, and click save. Now we will click regenerate PDF and download the invoice again. As you see, the invoice changed its appearance. You can also regenerate invoices in bulk. We just tick the boxes that we want and click regenerate.